Thank you, Eric. It's a great pleasure to be here today to introduce Funan. Funan premiered last June in Annecy. The film was awarded with the Crystal for feature film, which means the grand prize of the festival. It is Denis Do's debut feature. It's also a very personal work based on family memories related to the atrocities committed by the Khmer Rouge regime. Funan belonged to this major trend in contemporary European animation dealing with recent history. Waltz with Bashir, Persepolis, among others. It is a powerful and moving story where a young woman fights to survive. It reminds us the world could change itself into a nightmare. In Annecy, the public and the jury recognized the unique quality of this first professional film. Today you have the opportunity to discover Funan with English subtitles, which means you will hear the delicate and precise work of voice actors Bérénice Bejo and Louis Garrel, who did a fantastic work in giving a soul to the main characters. Denis Do and the producer Sébastien Onomo will be with us for a Q&A after the screening. But now please welcome Denis Do to say a few words.
Okay, thank you. It's my first time in USA, so I'm very glad to be here. Even I had a long story with a customer officer, but some would be long to tell. So the film you will watch, you will see, is the result of more than 20 years of testimonies from my mother. Then I spent with my friends and my other artists around 10 years to develop the film. You have to know, it's really important to know that in Europe, in France, when we are working on a film, we don't have the same condition as an American big studio. So we tried all along to be the most authentic as possible in terms of historical events, and also to all the stuff my mother shares to me. So I hope you will feel the emotion I felt since my childhood about this story. Thank you very much.
I'm Ramin, editor of Animation Magazine. I'm honored to be your moderator here tonight. Please welcome Denis. Writer and director of this amazing movie. Thank you so much. And Sebastien, producer, whatever.
Do we need to sit?
Sure.
No, do we need to sit? Or can we stand?
Whatever you like, whatever you feel comfortable. You want to stand?
I like to stand.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here tonight. We're very honored and sharing this amazing experience with us. Terribly moved and beautiful movie. I guess we're all here because we love animation, and we realize that movies like the one that you just gave us is why we love animated movies. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the invitation by the festival first. Otherwise, I don't know if we will be able to come or not.
Well, we're very lucky to have you here, and thank you so much. I guess we can start by maybe talking a little about the genesis of the movie. You know, how long were you thinking about making this movie, and you know, did you always know that you wanted to tell your family story in animated?
We have 20 minutes, right?
Oh, we have a lot of time.
Okay, everything starts. My memories can bring me to maybe my first meal when I was young, and as a child, as every child, we don't finish our dish. So my mother told me, you have to finish the rice, because we eat rice, you have to finish it without leaving any grains, because during the Khmer Rouge regime we had nothing to eat. So I was 3 or 4 years old. It was maybe the first time I heard about the Khmer Rouge, but by the way, she never said Khmer Rouge, she said the Black Suits Man. So for a young child, it's quite, I had quite a lot of imagination, so I imagined black silhouettes, evil people wanting to kill everyone everywhere. And I went to Cambodia in 1995. My father forced me to go because he wanted me to discover his country. But at that time, 2 years ago, in 1993, the United Nations just left Cambodia, so the country was really poor. Just after decades of war, and for a French child, it's really hard to be faced to that, because we don't have the habits to see such stuff in the street of Paris. So it was really, maybe too strong for me, and I hate Cambodia at the time. But my parents, my father especially, he don't care about my mood, so he bring us all to Cambodia in 1997 again. And I remember it very clearly because it was during the beginning of July 1997. My mom come back to the hotel. She was panicked, but I was not able to hear and to understand clearly what she was saying. I just remember that on the morning at 4, we were escaping to Vietnam. During the trip, the escape, my mother just said some things like, I don't want my sons, because my little brother was also here, I don't want my sons to be faced to the same stuff as I was. And when I came back to France, I started to make research about these events, and there was a big political trouble at that time, and there were tanks and soldiers on the streets, and I think this picture really marked my mother and reminds her past. So I decided at that time to make research about maybe the historical part of her story, and maybe to leave the intimate part, the family part beside. And then I was faced to Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge pictures. And as I grew up with my imagination with the Black Suits Men, it was really strong to be faced to real picture, to be faced to human. And I decided at that time, I was around 13, 14 years old, that one day I will do some things about all those testimonies, all those stories. Maybe through a novel, through comic books, as I like to draw. But life brings me to animation, and it was really during my graduation at Gobelin. We had a discussion with a friend. I told him a bit about my mother's story, and really friendly, he just said, "You should do a film with that." And I took it very seriously. And animation is so great, so interesting, because when you didn't take part, you didn't live all the past of your family, you wanted to create and to reappropriate everything by yourself, the environment, the pictures, the face of each characters you have never met. Animation is the perfect way to do that. And also, I didn't want to ask an actress to play my mother. That's all.
But Beautiful job. Now, you kind of talked about this, but do you find animation liberating in terms of kind of depicting difficult subjects, political subjects? You know, we've seen in the past few years, we've seen some difficult 2D animated features that kind of address topics, hard topics like that. Do you find it kind of liberating to tell the story through animation, or do you think it's more difficult?
I don't think there is any difference between animation and live action in terms of complexity, difficulties to tell a story. This is just different techniques. It has never been a genre for me. Animation can have animation, funny film, sad film, strong film. So I never asked myself about such questions. It is just because I like to draw. In French, animation, we call it dessin animé. In those two words, you have drawings and animation. Most of the times, I think we care too much about animation and not enough about drawings. So that's why in this film I wanted the animation to be, very, very light. It was not the purpose of the film to be impressive. I wanted the emotion to be more important than the picture, than everything. All the stuff you use, picture, music, has to bring emotion, and that's all. I anticipate maybe your question, but I want also to talk about the violence in the film. I remember in France, I have met a producer, after you, don't worry. Not for the project.
Before.
No, after screening, and she asked me if I was the film was a victim of censorship about violence because it is an animation film. And she said, yeah, maybe your producer, your distributors asked you to. I said, no, not at all. Why did I choose to not to hide, but just to suggest the violence? It is because during my teenage time, when I asked my mother about the violent moment, the atrocities, I remarked that myself, I was victim of voyeurism. This is a word I learned today, and it's also said the same way in French. And I didn't want to make such a film with, to depicting violence and to make the film impressive because of the violence. And each time I talk with someone from my generation who are born in France or other country, who has parents from Cambodia or from another atrocities era in the world, this person starts to talk about the atrocities and the violence. Maybe in order to prove, trying to prove me that it was real. But I think the story of the film doesn't need it. Also, my mother, when she talked about the atrocities, stuff like that, it was not always linked to her main path inside during her, this period of her life. And so it appears to me that I was just expecting, more blood, more stuff like that. And I didn't want the film to be to follow such way. Also, I never wanted the film to be a listing of all the exaction, the murderers, the atrocities committed by the Khmer Rouge. This is definitely not the point of the film. Because I believe that if such stuff are interesting for some people, a film is just a half door open. If people want to know more about the Khmer Rouge, my film is not trying to teach him a lesson of history or to tell people what to do, how to be good or bad. A film is just a half door open, and it should invite everyone to pass through and to make himself or herself her or him, no, its own opinion. Sorry for my English.
Their opinion. Very good. Now, when did you get involved with the project, Sebastien? Can you talk about that?
Yes. To start, I would like to thank you, the festival, for this invitation and for the screening here in United States and in Los Angeles, because it's very important for Denis and I. About my implication in the project, I think I met Denis in 2012, and it's because I was in school with the co-writer of Denis on this project, and it was a very amazing adventure, because it's the first feature film of Denis. It was my first feature film as producer, and it was the first feature film of the co-writer. And we were all convinced that this story can touch a lot of people all around the world, because I have African roots. I'm not involved about Cambodia, but I was convinced that the story of Denis and his mother was universal, because this kind of story can happen in other countries and in many countries in Africa, for example. And that's the key point for me when I decide to be involved in this kind of project.
Very good. Can you talk a little bit about the response you've got from the Cambodian community and maybe your own family? The response from the Cambodian community?
Well, we receive a lot of demands from association. I suppose association don't have enough money, and the distributors has to manage everything. But we are actually answering a great association of Cambodian people in Hong Kong. So the film will have its first screening in Hong Kong during the first week of December. And also in France, we are waiting for some, they are talking with the distributor. I don't really know, but we are in touch. And of course, in Cambodia, the film will have its own release, but we don't have the dates for now. And by the way, Cambodian artists are involved in the film because it makes sense, of course, to involve Cambodian artists for such a story. And
it's the first animated movie out of Cambodia?
First feature film.
First feature?
Yeah, for Cambodian artists. I have a good friend, a former classmate. He spent around 6-7 months in Cambodia to help the Cambodian artists to level up for working, and it was a big adventure for him, of course. And then I went to Cambodia by myself also, because it was important for me to meet people who share the same roots as me. And during a lunch, when we had some times to talk together, and I really wished them I wanted them to be more than involved on the film, but to feel that the story of the film was also their own stories. That's why I told them that it was not only my mother's story, but also theirs, and the proof is that they are alive today. Because all the Cambodian people all over the world are survivors of the Khmer Rouge regime. And there is something really important for me also, why I decided with my co-writers we wanted to write the Khmer Rouge in such a way, to develop at least 2 characters of the Khmer Rouge. Because it's really important for me that everyone knows that the Khmer Rouge are not from another planet. They are all born in Cambodia. As the Nazis are from Germany, and I think we have to assume that. We have to we should not lie to ourselves anymore. And this is really important because this is such a taboo in Cambodia. People live in the same village, victims and former Khmer Rouge are neighbors. They never talk about anything from the past, and this is really strange. That's why I want this film to show some Khmer Rouge characters with a lot of empathy who are still human, who just believe in the ideology. And well, it happens too much like that. So we should remember how it works, how everything turns before we follow the bad side.
I think right now it's very important to realize that in current times we all live through that. So one thing also maybe you can talk about the visual style of the film and the fact that it's 2D and two-room harmony. Did you use two-room? Maybe talk a little about that and how a lot of these stories seem to be.
Is there Toon Harmony employees here, or I mean, should I promote the software?
No, that's okay. A lot of people want to know. Animators like, how did you make that? How did you create that? Maybe talk about the.
I would be very
appeal of
honest about everything. Harmony was not our first choice. We wanted to do it with Flash. Yeah, Flash is a great software. Animate. But because of the studios we are working with, so we used the Harmony, and we were also doing the compositing of Harmony.
Because the movie has been done in 6 studios. Yeah, 4 countries and 6 studios.
Yeah, but once you've almost forced us to use Harmony and to use also Harmony for the compositing. Bad idea.
You heard it here first. Okay.
I've lost tons of hair because we were doing the compositing on Harmony. And sorry, what was your question?
2D, the appeal of 2D versus CG, because we look forward to seeing 2D animated movies coming from Europe and Japan and France.
Yeah.
It's great to see these stories told in 2D. Maybe you can talk about that.
Well, 2D versus CG, you said. I think 2D has some things more. The relation with the picture is quite different, and in some way it's also CG because we use computer, so it's 2D CG, but about the style, of course, it looks realistic. It was a choice since the beginning, related to my taste, also the taste of Michael Kruza, the graphic author. But in terms of narration, in terms of the DNA of the film, I wanted the visual style to be linked to history, and so it was important to help the audience. Well, I hope it works, but to show human instead of cartoon. I think we can also do that in CG, in 3D. But I hate 3D and I don't know how to do 3D, so well.
It looks great. It looks amazing. How about your family? How did your family receive it? Have they seen the movie?
Well, as I said, I will be completely honest. The first person I showed the movie to was my little brother. He has no role in the film. And after the screening, he told me, "Oh, so much time, you spend so much time only for that. I'm so sorry." But
because he saw.
But after Annecy, he comes to me and he said, "I have something to tell you. The day you showed me the film, I was not able to understand, to hear anything, because I took some drugs." And I just try to understand, to feel how much effort he has to put, he has to keep himself to just watch the movie and trying to be normal. And but I guess the most important people I have shown the movie is my mother. Her reaction. She doesn't understand French at all, but she was moved by the music, and of course the ambience. Something's really touching at the beginning is that she was able to recognize some of the main characters. And you have to know that some of the characters, we create them without pictures, because we lost all the pictures. And yeah, it was really touching because it proves me that we reached the goal, we reach it. Also, every time the Khmer Rouge appears on the screen, she starts to yell and to insult them, her face becomes red. Yeah. And I don't know why, she pointed out the sequence with the mangoes when one of the characters tried to grab some mangoes, and she starts to laugh at that time. And she asked me, why did you put this event? I said, because when you told me this part of your story, it was so funny. And she said, yeah, but in the film it's not very funny. And I told her, yeah, but I just translate correctly what you told me. I don't know why it's not funny, but it's only funny when she talk about it. Yeah, most important things, trying to be always authentic. So for 9 years now, I hope the film has really touched you, and that you all were also able, to feel all the long journey we all followed for this.
We did. We all did, definitely. Now I know that we're running out of time, so I know some people want to ask some questions. Yes, please.
Okay. So really fast. The realistic style seems like it maybe left ligne claire and moved towards realism. And did you change the story much? In other words, was that your half-brother and your mother's first husband, or did you change the story? And the scrap of fabric, was that his scarf, which when he died and it was flowing in the wind, was just an unbelievable moment?
Sorry, I just understood the last part.
Okay. My French is bad. Okay, I'm saying that the style, the visual style, seems like it started with ligne claire, like Tintin ligne claire, and then moved towards realism. And the second part was, did you change the story? In other words, was that your little half-brother, etc., and your mother's first husband, or did you change some of the characters?
Let's start with, did you change some of the characters?
The beginning of the second part, I was lost.
Est-ce que c'était vrai, l'histoire exactement vraie avec ton petit demi-frère et la première mari de son père, ou est-ce que tu as changé cette histoire un peu?
Très bien.
That's great. Thank you very much. Well, this is a very interesting question, because what I like to say about this film is it's not that it's completely real. It's a fiction based on real facts, because we took some liberties, some freedom to add some stuff in order to, for me, improve the narration, but also we used some events because I was touched sometimes by some stuff I have seen, I watched on TVs, media, some reports, and I will give you an example later. But to be very precise about the scarf, this is a complete creation, because I needed some things to link everyone. Also the breath, the Kwon always breath on her wife, on my mother, never happened, of course, because this is not this. We don't kiss this way in Cambodia. We used to do the opposite to do that. But I didn't want them to kiss because it was not something people do at that time in Cambodia. It's not the culture there. but also they needed a kind of gesture to show their link. And at the beginning, they always kiss from this side, from the left to the right, because they are expecting a bright future. And at the second moment, the breath happened. It is after the night bath in the Khmer Rouge camp. The breath also happened from the same, on the same direction, because they are expecting in the future to find the sun. The third time it happens, they are in the field, lotus field, and the husband breath from the right to the left, because they are looking to the paradise they have lost before. And then at the end, I think you all understand that the husband invites her wife to live. And so I come back to some facts in history, in our in media, stuff like that, who has also inspired some moments on the film. I remember one thing, it was some things really shocked. I was really shocked for the execution of Gaddafi in Libya, because he was executed by rebels supported by our Western democracies, supposing to be good people. And we all know that Gaddafi was a dictator, but to be executed like that, only by revenge, without any trial, reminds me that stuff like that happens also in our human history. And so it was a big motivation to add such stuff in the film when all the victims kill the Khmer Rouge. And this is the only shots in the film where we are face to face to violence, because all overshot, all of the moments are just suggested. And I choose to show it very clearly, because such kind of violence, committed by victims, so the good side of humanity, we don't talk about enough, we don't show it enough. And it was important for me, because, as I said, we all know that the Khmer Rouge has made tons of bad stuff. But the victims, this is not always black and white. Our story is not black and white. We all have a wide gray scale of stuff we have done, even ourselves. And it reminds also to me the history of Europe during the World War II. And also many stuff happened in France. So, yeah, this is a human film about human life, about life.
Excellent. I think we have time for, how much time do we have? One more? One more question, okay.
So Dennis, I am deeply touched by your film. I think what really struck me is, I think the core story to me is how the parents were so determined to find their son. And to me, this is like the realistic version of Finding Nemo. And it's a real Nemo, right, the real son in real life.
This is the first time I heard that.
and it's so powerful. Also, I love your style. The characters, what is really striking is the eyes. You see the eyes, the white in the eyes, and how much emotion there is and how their pupils move. And it's just so touching. I was just really blown away. I want to congratulate you on this and for bringing this film to us. Yeah.
After that, I will reveal you a secret about another real part of the story inside this film. But it's good to hear about the eyesight of the characters, because we spent a lot of time to work on it. And the eyesight is quite important, because this is maybe the first thing people focus on when you watch the screen. And according to the direction the eyesight can bring you can make alive out of the screen. And so you add some sounds, you add some events around, and it makes your environment completely alive. And and of course it's cheaper. Yes, I believe that eyes and hands are the most important, but we don't make hands animation or tons of hands animation, so I rely on eyes. So about the characters, and here I will come with the secret. It's important for me to tell you some things about the end of the film. The husband of my mother, which he is not my father, of course, then, because in terms of timeline, it's not possible. He didn't die because of the Khmer Rouge. He died because of Thai soldier. And I didn't choose. I really wanted to show Thai soldiers to be really authentic, but it was not possible because if I had Thai soldier at that moment, I would need 20 more minutes to explain why. So I needed to finish the film. And Thai soldiers, they molested Kwon. They wanted gold. And they molest all the refugees who escaped from Cambodia when they didn't have enough space in the refugee camp. They just hold few Cambodians refugees and freed them, asking them to go back to Cambodia. People at that time follow the orders, or they were shot by the Thai soldier. And when they passed through the borders, they had to pass through again the landmines, and they can spend hours to walk only 200 meters, and in front of them the Khmer Rouge were waiting. So such story also happened everywhere in the world. I believe we heard every day about some territories, some countries in the world with war. Believe me, all around those countries there is refugee camps, sometimes supported or not by Western countries in order really to help. But the funds don't always go to the refugee camp. The Thai soldiers stole a lot of money, also from Cambodian refugees, but also from the Red Cross. And yeah, this is something really important for me to share because of the memory of this guy, of my mother's first husband. This film for me is also, I don't know how to say, homage. Yeah, it's a real tribute from my heart to him, because I believe that he is the only one man my mother loved. Of course, it's really disturbing for me because he's not my father. And I had some psychological trouble maybe for that. But he is the father I want to be. And that's why he was depicted like that. Wow.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sebastien. Thanks a lot to you. Thank you for giving us this great movie.